these slides over to everybody anyway,
Yeah.
so you'll have a copy of them. So yes, and we are on slide. Okay, so where can we make a difference? I'll just go through the slides and just talk them through, but as I mentioned, we'll send them over so you have these as well. So production, thinking about increasing, growing, and the production of local and sustainable food. Other ways of making a difference are transport, reducing food miles in terms of how far our food is coming from, increasing use of more sustainable transport. What options are there? How can we do that? And then consumption, considering the impact of the types of food that we eat, increasing access to local or sustainable food, and thinking about how we can use less energy associated with cooking and storing food. Finally, waste, reducing food waste, increasing sustainable processing of food waste. You're reducing plastic use, increasing use of more sustainable packaging and or reducing packaging. We've got some great examples of projects that we're currently funding on our Just Fact website. So please do have a look as well to get a sense of what's already running and what's up.
Cool. So for the lab grants, what we're looking for is, we know the current kind of system is broken, and we're looking for projects that can sort of demonstrate that an alternative exists to what there is at the moment. So this could be looking at any part of the food system, like I sort of talked about at the beginning. It could be more the production side, or it could be the transporting side, or the retailing side, or kind of, so for example, one of the existing projects is food co-op, so looking at a different way of selling food in community spaces, or one of them is looking at how to manage waste on like a housing estate and community composting. So there's sort of different parts of the food system that projects might look at, or it might be multiple. And I guess these ones are slightly bigger grants because we expect they might involve maybe elements of new infrastructure, or they might be part of like an enterprise, or really thinking about what is a solution that has the potential to be like replicable and long-term as well, and how could this be a sort of an example of doing something differently. And it doesn't have to be a new idea, it could be building on something that already exists or expanding on something that already exists. Cool, so we'll just go through the criteria now. Do you want to kick off with this one?
Yeah, so there's several different criteria that you must meet in order to be able to apply. And the first criteria is to help address climate change with activities that reduce carbon emissions. So we're thinking your intervention must have a carbon reduction impact. You do not need to know how to measure carbon emissions. You would work with someone to calculate any savings. So we work with someone called Lucy who would support you on that. Both immediate carbon savings and potential savings will be calculated, and projects could look at a specific part of the food system or address multiple areas.
Cool. And that one sounds a bit intimidating, but actually it is quite a well supported part of the programme as well, just to say. So there's ways that if producing food, we can look at that, or kind of waste, or whatever it is. There's different ways we're doing that in the programme. So yeah, don't let this one put you off, I'd say. So I guess another thing we're thinking about is just transition. So this is the social justice part of the work. So how we reduce carbon and climate impacts of our food system is really important, the way we do that. And actually we want it to be centering voices who are hardest hit by some of the issues, and we want to be thinking about things like access to healthy, affordable food. Where is sort of power and ownership of new food systems? Who's in control? Is it kind of being driven by kind of local people? And another part of like a just transition is thinking about, are there ways we can redirect resources back into communities' hands, or back into like away from some of those bigger kind of corporations and where power is currently held? And so that could be access to resources or access to land. So, you know, this is quite a big one, help build towards a just transition. And it's not like you have to hit all of these points, but it's just something to kind of to think about how within a project looking at transforming a bit of the food system or experimenting with something new, how might you also be thinking about kind of justice and some of these points? It might be one more than another.
Criteria 3 is thinking about help create a new community-driven food system involving representation from the local community in developing and delivering the project. So thinking about giving local people the opportunity to shape the work and have a sense of ownership, really centering the community at the heart of the work that you're doing. Ensuring voice that represent the local community are fed into the design and the delivery of the project. It could be local people taking charge. They come up with a solution, positions of responsibility and involved in the decision making. Again, you know, have a look at some of our projects that we're already some of the labs that we're already funding. Urban are a great example of doing this, where they work alongside a community estate and do composting, community food meals. They're a really good model and example of a lab.
Cool. So the fourth criteria is about sharing learning. So I guess the whole programme is really about together learning about what are the clues around this alternative food system that we need, what's working well, what's not going so well, and how can that be shared more widely with others so that we can begin to scale up kind of ideas that work. And so for all of the projects within Just Fat, each one will be thinking of a way of sharing some of that learning with others, and that could be lots of different things. It could be a resource, it could be a how-to kit, it could be hosting an event or something that kind of invites people in and shares some of the learnings. And that's part of our role as well as the Just Fat team, is to support with the dissemination of kind of knowledge and learnings that come out of all the different projects in the programme. Sina? Hasina might have dropped off because I know the internet.
Sorry.
I know you're there.
Yeah. No, I am here. Criteria 5 is have the potential for impact beyond this grant by exploring solutions that are long lasting and can be expanded upon by you or others. So how can your project have a lasting impact? What will continue to exist when the funding for the project finishes? So thinking about longevity and sustainability. It could be creating infrastructure that will continue to be used and maintained past the project. It could be a resource that can be used by others to replicate the project. It could be an opportunity, e.g. the potential to unlock further funding. So having that kind of as a thinking space throughout the project of how can you continue the work that you do beyond the funding that the Just Fat grant will give you.
And then for the lab applications, I guess some things that are also worth considering is whether you can show match funding or in-kind contributions. You know, really, there's so much amazing work happening that can the funding build on that? You know, I think with the labs, there's an interest in kind of building up models where there's the potential for different ways of financing projects in the long term. You know, we know the cycle of grants, and a lot of things have to be grant funding, but also what are ways we can build financial resilience into projects as well. And also kind of other local groups or organisations, is there any collaborations there? These aren't criteria, but they're just things to think about that might strengthen an application.
So the grant details, the funding size on the projects can apply for is between £10,000 and £40,000. The total sum available currently is £130,000. We aim to try and support and fund between 4 to 6 projects per round, but it really also depends on how many people apply. We've extended the deadline to the 7th of November, 12 p.m. In terms of the duration and the length of your project, that may vary, but must be 1 year minimum. And the spent and reported budget income must be shared by August 2025. So who can apply? Anyone in Tower Hamlets that's focused an organisation or group who haven't yet received the Just Fact funding.
And it could also be that your organisation, if it's Tower Hamlets focus, it might not be based in Tower Hamlets, but it's linked to the work you're doing is like explicitly linked to the food system in Tower Hamlets. So that could be you if you're not actually based in the borough, as long as your work links to Tower Hamlets food systems.
So some of the examples of projects that we have, a smaller project with a grant in the region of £10,000 might be planting an orchard or fruit bushes on housing estates, also looking at rainwater harvesting in a community garden. So, thinking about smaller micro kind of change or impact that you're thinking of through your project. Bigger project examples might be building a closed loop system for managing food waste on local housing estates, using an anaerobic digester. That again is something that Rurban are currently doing. And we have examples again on our website of projects that are labs and what they're doing that give you a better sense of like what ideas that you could present when you're applying.
So I'll just go through how to apply. There's a form on the website. And that's the only thing you need to submit by the 7th of November. And most of the questions should hopefully be quite straightforward. They all link to those criteria that we've gone through. So thinking about what the main issue is, what activity you will be doing, kind of why the project's needed, kind of how is it community driven, and is there anyone else involved, a bit more about wider stakeholders, what you might produce to help others learn from the work, and what you think the potential for impact beyond the grant is as well. There's a table within the application form for activities, objectives and outcomes. So activities is really going through the different parts of what you'll do. And then the objectives of what will happen as a result of that. So that could be, for example, you want to test new composting and growing systems, and technologies such as hydroponics. For anyone who doesn't know, that's when you grow just with water. And so an objective would be, to produce 3 composted bays and 1 hydroponic system within 5 months, training 5 people. And an outcome of that is the difference that will make. So compost being generated for use on allotment beds, food that's grown for the community, increased function skills, that kind of thing. So if you're not sure about what to put in each box, you can get in touch with us, because sometimes this can be a bit, sometimes these sorts of tables can make one's head spin a bit, or it does for me anyway. Then there's a section around organisational details. Again, hopefully quite straightforward. Stuff around policies and insurance. Again, if you're not sure, you can ask us, but you don't have to necessarily have everything in place at the point of applying. Some of that could come afterwards. Experience, we kind of look at a range of different experience. If you haven't had as much experience, that's also fine. And there's a chance to sort of say about any support you might need. There is a budget summary table, and there's also for these bigger funds, there's a link to a supporting spreadsheet that you also complete. So yeah, actually, so it's the application form and that spreadsheet that is submitted, just to be clear. But then this is a summary which is in the body of the application form. Should all be quite straight, make sense, but if there's anything that's not clear, you can always ask us. Because it is a partnership programme, we do organise events and kind of gatherings across the year that bring everyone together, and it's a really really strong and beautiful part of the programme to be building those connections between people and projects. So we suggest like adding some staffing or people time for that, so that feels resourced and you can come along and participate, so it doesn't feel like an extra thing, that it's covered in your time. Normally about half a day every 3 months as an approximate amount. And then in terms of support, we can offer, Hasina will drop, there's a needs and offers table document, sorry, that if there's anything you feel like you've got a project idea but you're missing a particular bit, or there's something you want to offer, and it's a way of just popping that down, and it might be a chance to collaborate with other organisations and groups as you put together your application. We can offer some one-to-one support if English isn't a first language, or there's any other barriers, if you're neurodiverse or have a sensory issue, or are less familiar with the grant application process or anything else, you can get in touch. We can chat through what might be needed. On the website, we've got a grant guidance document and FAQs, so any questions that have come up in past webinars or today, we'll add to that. So hopefully you'll see what commonly asked questions are, and you can also get in touch with us. We'll drop the email into the chat. It's justfact@wen.org.uk, but we're really happy to answer any questions or have a quick call with you in the next few weeks in the lead up to the deadline. Cool. Pass over to Hasina.
And how we make our decisions. So first thing we'll do is check your eligibility. And this is against our criteria for you to be eligible to be able to receive the funding. Eligible organisations will be scored by the Just Fact Grants panel, who will then meet for a decision-making meeting. Decisions by grant panel will include 4 community representatives and 3 other partners. So, for example, East End Community Foundation, Popular Harker, Sustain. You'll receive notification via email within 8 weeks of applying, and we aim to inform applicants if their project has been successful by early December.
Oh, stop sharing now and probably stop the recording. And if anyone's got any questions, now's a good time.